Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Sarah Schultz, formerly Sarah Sperber. My husband Ryan and I got married during COVID when everything was shut down, and finally, 5 years later, I've gotten around to changing my name. So, I'm Sarah Schultz, Reno real estate expert, and on today's video, I'm gonna be telling you everything that you need to know about living in Reno. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I've made iterations of this video in the past, but today, I'm gonna be giving you guys the 2025 updates. So I moved to Reno back in 2011, 2012. I was kind of bouncing between Tahoe and Reno, and so much has changed, you guys. This city has completely exploded. It's still in a huge period of growth, and we're not sure how or when that's gonna kind of trail off or what that might look like. But for now, all signs lead to a period of enormous economic growth, which means this city is almost unrecognizable from the city that I fell in love with about 15 years ago. I think that Reno is appealing overall, and I'm going to get into specifics, so stay with me, but I think overall Reno is appealing because you get to have this sort of, outdoor rec focused lifestyle because you're right near Lake Tahoe and in proximity of all the things that Tahoe has to offer as far as, mountain sports, lake sports, all those things. But you get to live in Reno, which has this urban feel. In many places, it's still a bit gritty. It's kind of changing, but there is still that gritty factor, which I actually think kind of makes it distinct and cool. And those areas are kind of rapidly being gentrified and changed. But for the meantime, you have the amenities of a decent sized, moderately sized city, but you are also able to access all of the outdoor rec lifestyle sports and all the things that come with that. So it's kind of this situation wherein you have the best of both worlds. We've gone through a bit of an overview. Let's dive into some of the key points that I'm going to make in this video. And the first, which I've already briefly touched on, is the geography of the biggest little city. As I mentioned, we're right next door to Lake Tahoe, so that opens up all the possibilities of skiing, mountain biking, hiking, camping. In the summertime, you have boating and swimming and beach days, all of that, which is amazing, especially with such a short drive. Depending on which part of Reno and which part of Tahoe you are trying to access, you can be at the lake from anywhere between about 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending, like I said, just on which part of each place you are departing and arriving to, and depending on traffic, of course. You do have to drive up over the summit no matter which way you cut it, so depending on weather it could take a little bit longer as well. Here in Reno, we are in a high desert climate. It is a bit dry. If you are conscious of your hair, skin, and nails, you may notice that right away, that when you get here, we're in the desert, we're in the high desert, we're in the mountains, and it really depends on the year. One of the most common questions I get asked from relocating movers from other places to this area are always about snow. How much snow? Will I have to get snow removal? Like, how intense is it having to keep up with shoveling, etc.? And I have to be really honest with you guys, it really depends on the year. 2 winters ago, I think we broke the 100-year record. It just did not stop. At lake level, I know my friends who live in Tahoe were like constantly complaining about back pain. Even with, plows and snow removal, they were still having to shovel every single day. That was super intense. Roads were closed. Traffic was gnarly. If you were trying to get in and out of any of the ski resorts, there were crazy viral videos all over the internet of people who had no business driving the cars that they had up into those parts. So, if you are an avid skier or snow sports enthusiast, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that you probably already understand how snow works and how to drive in it and what kind of car you need. Typically, when it snows here, it will snow, and by the afternoon it's melted, or it's pretty lightweight shoveling. So I wouldn't let that be a deterring factor if you are considering Reno and you're not completely sure about snow. Though, don't come after me, because there are times when we will get several feet, like maybe 10 feet over one weekend in one storm. But those storms typically tend to be few and far between. 2 winters ago, aside, that's not super typical here. Let's talk about population growth and why people are moving here. Obviously, it's a lifestyle choice, but I also have to say that since COVID, when a lot of businesses and companies realized, hey, we can operate at full capacity without having brick and mortar, or with offering a hybrid brick and mortar at home situation, a lot of people who work in tech or in other sectors that are, kind of rooted in the Bay Area realized that they could work here and still be just as effective at their jobs. I think that Reno has kind of become this like digital nomad slash remote worker kind of paradise, just because, like I said, you get the best of both worlds. You can live in a city with entertainment, music, food, whatever, nightlife, but also be near the mountains and the skiing. So I think that that is one reason why people have really started to flock to Reno, not to mention our sectors in the tech space, healthcare, manufacturing. All of these industries have moved here for a multitude of reasons. One of them is that this is a very tax-friendly place to be when you own a business, and those industries are really developing and attracting a lot of people here to join their workforce. Reno also has a lot of great cultural experiences for a city this size. If you're not a rodeo enthusiast, I'm from New England. This was like a culture shock to me, but it is really fun. There's a carnival and obviously all the rodeo events every year. That's a huge part of the cultural experience in Reno. We also have a fairly lively arts and culture scene, and that just keeps growing and developing. We've got the theater on Keystone. They do an incredible magic show called Magique every Saturday night and select additional dates. They also bring in other companies and other shows. We've got the Pioneer Center, which is right downtown. This is an equity theater, so we get all of the Broadway tours that pass through. So on top of those, the casinos also have their own, theaters or showrooms or what have you that bring in entertainment. We also have a ton of really great kind of boutique grassroots venues, local business owners that put on smaller shows, productions, or welcome community members to host their own shows. Let's talk about the overall cost of living. I'm not going to get into the weeds here, but if you've been following me for a while, you know that I've made several videos about specific data points, but in general, I think people coming from bigger California cities like Los Angeles or the Bay Area are finding that Reno is still, by comparison, very affordable. Now, I can hear the disgruntled people who were born and raised in the back, and I'm not forgetting about you. And it is a struggle for a lot of people who were born and raised here, who are used to the local wages and are not making money, elsewhere, or being hired by a company that has moved in from out of state. But with that, our median cost of living, our median sales price for a single family home is right around $600,000, which to the average consumer in the United States actually sounds quite expensive. And I think that, the caveat with that is that it's not expensive to people coming from LA or the Bay or even New York or other major cities where those prices have doubled, tripled, quadrupled, or, even more than that. I will say our data points still suggest that Reno is overall more expensive than living in Las Vegas. So if you want the bigger city life and you're not afraid of the heat and you don't care about being next to Lake Tahoe, but you're still thinking about Nevada, Vegas may be another option worth considering, although Reno versus Vegas are two totally different animals. I think I've made that video before, but if you have questions about that, just feel free to ask. As I've mentioned, our major employers here are rooted mostly in tech. We've got Tesla, Amazon, Panasonic. All three continue to develop and grow here in Reno. We also have a burgeoning logistics and health sector here. And as I mentioned before, there are a lot of opportunities here in our city for remote workers. The other cool thing about Reno, like a lot of cities that are similar in size, is that you can kind of decide where you want to live based on your lifestyle, because different parts of the city might feel like completely different planets from each other. For example, life down here in South Reno, kind of close to the Damani Ranch area, Curdy Ranch area, this is an ideal situation if you are a family, if you want to be kind of away from the hustle and bustle of downtown, if you are not into like the gritty urban environment. This very much feels like suburbia. However, However, if you are somebody who values having coffee shops and restaurants within walkable distances, if you don't like driving on the highway, if you like to just kind of take back neighborhood streets to get to where you're going, you may want to consider living closer to downtown. But we have so many different kind of pockets and areas within Reno and Sparks that offer a wide variety of lifestyle options. Even though our median sales price has climbed to just about 600K, there are still a lot of opportunities here for first-time buyers or investors. So that's not to sound scary or off-putting. If you are one of those folks, I would love to help you. It's just to kind of give you a benchmark for how we might line up against other cities of similar size or bigger. We also have some seasonal considerations that you might want to make if you're moving here, depending on the precipitation, snowpack, moisture during the winter. That kind of plays into what our fire season might look like. Wildfire season is usually late summer, early fall, all the way up till we start seeing snow. And that can actually be a huge factor. Here in Reno, we did have the Davis fire this past year. That was really scary. It came all the way up into Galena, and there were some homes that were destroyed, which is so tragic and so unexpected, but it kind of makes you realize that can happen anywhere. So hopefully not here any further, but it's something you have to make considerations for. You might want to throw some snow tires on your car in the winter, or have chains, or whatever it is that you're going to need to feel safe getting up and down the mountains, because that is a factor of life here. Seasonal considerations do need to include snow prep and snow gear. Let's talk about the best times to move to Reno. I mean, it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. Do you like my real estate buzz commentary? Well, anyway, my point is the best time to move is when it's the best time for you. But all that cheesiness aside, which obviously is rooted in truth, our market tends to die down just like in every other market around the holidays. People don't really like to move when it's snowy and cold and wet, but that is the time of year when you can get some of the best deals. Typically, the sellers that keep their homes on the market during that time are doing so out of necessity, and therefore they are ready to make a deal. So that may be a consideration worth having. Typically, we see the summer months are the hottest, not just with weather, but also with real estate. Typically, summer is when things really pick up around here. There's a lot more inventory to choose from. Buyers are out. People are ready to make deals. If there are going to be bidding wars and a lot of buyer traffic, typically we will see that kind of trend happening in the summer. But of course, if you guys have specific market data questions or specific questions about your unique situation, I would love to help you out. If you're thinking about moving here from out of state, I did that 15 years ago, and ever since I've been working with buyers and sellers just like you to help make your transition here smooth. So I would love to connect and learn about your unique situation, decide if I might be a good fit to help you, or at least put you in the right direction. You can book a free call with me. There's a link to do that in the show notes below. It's no obligation. I don't like pressure. I don't like getting off on a weird foot. So go ahead and reach out, and I would love to be of service to you. And if you haven't already, it would mean the world to me if you would smash that like and that subscribe button. I put out new videos every single week about the Reno Sparks lifestyle, the Northern Nevada housing market, and of course, all things to do with buying and selling real estate. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.